Hey guys, welcome to session number 49 of the Trailer Music Composers Podcast.
One man with one microphone who clicks and claps when walking around his home. Welcome to the Trailer Music Composers Podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to another session of the Trailer Music Composers Podcast. Welcome, all new listeners, and of course, hello again, my old friends. Those of you who have listened before, and of course, my old friends who are listening. Today, I wanted to give you guys a little tidbit from some of my YouTube tutorials. Which is kind of like essentially what I've been doing on this podcast anyway. It's covering those things that I think will help trailer music composers, that I think will help composers to better their craft, whether that's increasing their writing speed, increasing their production quality, increasing their knowledge, enlarging their passion for the music. And in this particular one, I talk about chord progressions because, you know what, people are always asking me about it, and that's why I did the video, because I was kind of like, okay, let's just talk about some minor chord progressions. And obviously this is actually in video format, so if you want to actually watch the video, you can head on over to my YouTube channel. It's just Richard Schreiber on YouTube. And you can check this video out. And of course, subscribe to my many more ramblings and rantings on my YouTube channel. That's Richard Schreiber, by the way. Yes. Anyway, I do hope you enjoy this. It's really simple, but you know what? I love this stuff. I just love the relationships of chords and harmony and how they all intertwine to create the moods that we're all trying to do. So sit back or, walk, whatever you're doing, and enjoy. Thanks, chaps. Hey guys, in this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you some amazing minor chord progressions that you really should know. Now, this is a big one for a lot of you. A lot of you often ask me, what chord progression should I use? What chord progression should I use? And Rich, what chord progressions are best for trailer music? Now, obviously, we all deal with the same chord progressions, so you could really just pick any and just work with it to see the sort of nature of it. And the wonderful thing about chord progressions is you can take a bass chord progression and you can just extend the chords, and all of a sudden it changes tone. You can reduce the tonalities that you're using, so you don't actually necessarily have to make them minor or major. You could just keep them as open, so fifth chords, and again it changes it completely, at which point you're almost going to bass lines. But these 4 chord progressions I'm going to be showing you are, ones I use all the time. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to be showing you whole trailer cues. I'm not going to be showing you a development of an idea. I'm just going to literally show you the chord progressions so that you can start to kind of see how these chord progressions can sound and be used for trailer music. I mean, I just love talking about chord progressions because essentially 20 composers could have the same chord progression and it could sound vastly different. And that's what's magic about music. We're all using the same tools, but the way we use them really show our identity, etc. Okay, so I'm going to start with one of my favorites, and one that you hear not just on trailer music. You hear this on film scores. You just hear this on so many tracks, and we are essentially doing a minor chord, our root minor, so our first minor chord. So I'm going to stick to A minor for this one. In fact, what I'll do is I will just draw in this chord so you can see how I'm working. I'm not going to play it on the piano because you won't be able to see it. So A minor. Hello. So A minor is A, C, and E. There we go. That's our root minor chord. And then we take that root minor chord and we turn that into a flattened major 6th chord. And what that is in A minor is F major. So we're going A minor to F. It's just such a wonderful chord progression because you have the sadness of the first minor chord, and then you have the lift of the major chord. And that's the beautiful thing of it. It starts off, it's got like this wonderful mixture of sadness and hope. And that's why it's so versatile, because you go from this like, oh, my day's been rubbish, to, well, it's going to get better. Or is it? Yes. And it's great. It brings together one of the most important things as a composer, and that is tension and release. The minor chord gives us the tension. The major chord gives us the release. Tension and release. Obviously, it's very subtle, but it's so important. So let's just shift this up here. So let's label this A minor, just so you can see it a little bit better what I'm talking about. F. In fact, no, just for sake of it. So I'm dealing with Roman numerals here. So when it's a lowercase, it's a minor. When it's an uppercase, it's a major. So we've got minor first to a minor sixth. So if we just play that. Yes, don't you just love like the same velocities all over the place? I'm going to just put another instrument in so that we can hear this a little bit better. This is one of my favourite synths around. This is the photosynthesis synth. Okay, so it's a bit of a quick progression at the moment for me, so I'm just going to do this. Let's just isn't that lovely? So we've got minor 1, flattened, major 6. Minor 1. In fact, I should be labeling this correctly. Flattened, major 6. There we go. So which means, because when you talk about flattened or not, you're essentially referring always back to the Ionian mode, which is the major scale. So if we were to be in A, which is our root in this case, a flattened major 6, the 6th degree is F sharp. So it's actually a flattened major 6 in this case. So that's why it's flattened to an F natural. So we have A minor, and then we have F natural major, which is a flattened major 6th chord. Now, before I just listen to this on loop for the next 20 minutes, I should probably continue to the next chord progressions. I have them written down here because I knew I'll forget them otherwise, because I'll get panicked because there's a small camera watching me. So this next one, I've talked about this in other tutorials before. I've talked about this in my podcast. I've talked about this on my courses. This is a beast of a chord progression. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take this guy, hello, and I'm going to change you to the flattened major 7. Flattened degree, flattened 7th degree. So again, we're in A, so that the 7th degree would be G sharp. So it's flattened to a G. I've been on B flat because I'm so used to playing in C. G, B, D. There we go. So flattened 7. And the next one we need is a 5th chord. So what we're going to do is going to keep you up there. Keep you up there, guys. Yep. So what we're going A minor, G major, which is the flattened major 7th degree. Flattened 7th degree in a major chord. Then we're going to flattened major 6th, and then we're going to the 5th major. So, we're not changing key. by using this G sharp. We are just borrowing it from another scale. So, you know, you could be looking at from the melodic minor scale, which is where you have a change from your flattened 6th and 7th degrees to their natural states when you're changing the direction of playing. But in this case, we're just borrowing this G sharp. So let's have a listen to it. This is A minor, G major, F major, E major. Okay, so the way this is working is tension and release. The tension and release are working a little bit differently here. So you start with the tension of the minor chord. The major tonality of these next two chords is kind of giving you a subtle feeling of release. And then this major, which is the 5th, the dominant, essentially, if I was to put this D in there, then gives you the tension back into the root chord, which is also a little bit tense. So it's you're always working with tension and release, just the levels of it. And that's why you've got to make sure the most tense part is just before the return, at the end of your phrase. We don't have to do that, but that's generally what we do. Now, I could probably, if I did my research, reel off hundreds of trailers that have this chord progression in. I mean, I do know for sure that 2 of the Avengers Endgame trailer, thank you, 2 of the Avengers Endgame trailers had this chord progression, or at least extensions of it. So I think there was probably, we were going to 7th, 9th and 13th degrees of this one. This one is great because the 4 chords give you this longer phrase, and also the way these chords work mean that you can write in a stepwise fashion, so that you can go from your A minor, step up or down a note to the next chord, up or down a note to the next chord, up or down a note to the next chord, which gives you this chance to have a very vocal type melody, because you're relying on stepwise movements. Now, in trailer music, so many of the melodies you hear are very, very simple and based around small steps. Because the catchier, the easier they are to remember, the better for the advertising company, which is the trailer house, or, you know, the production company putting it together. And that's what we're doing with this chord progression. It's so popular because of that reason. And the same with this first one, the root minor chord and then the flattened major 6th chord, because it gives you this opportunity to step easily into the next chord. And one could argue you could do that with every progression, but these ones lend themselves to that so much more easily. Next one. This one's quite fun. Let's create another instrument and mute you, and you can stay up there. So what we're going to be, we're starting with A minor root, A minor, and then we're going to be borrowing this guy again, and then we're going to be borrowing this guy. Okay, so using the same chords, obviously, because there's only like 7 of them. We've got our minor, and then we're going to add another chord in here. And then we go into our flattened major 6th, flattened major 7th. Now, the chord we are missing is this one. Major 3rd, which in this case is a C. So this chord progression, we've got this A minor, C major, F major, G major. So those of you who are wanting to, wondering what the moods are of these ones, this one is a hopeful one. This one is like family adventure. This one is big trailers where, you know, slow burns where you want it to feel, you don't want it to feel like the end of the world. You want it to feel like there's hope, like the good guys are winning. And it's because of these three major chords. That C major lifts it up completely. The F major, we're lifting back into the A minor chord. And again, same thing, allows for stepwise movements or sustained notes over the chords you've got. So you've got these similar notes. You've got C and E over here. You've got C over here, and then it goes up to the D. And this is the wonderful thing about having the flattened seventh. It gives for a good leading note. Now, a leading note is a note that sort of leads into the next note. So we end on a B natural or we end on a D natural, and then we drop down into a C or drop down into an A, or we move up to an E or move up to a C. It's wonderful because that flattened seventh degree leads into the first so beautifully. Flattened seventh chord. And this one's really nice for the fact that it feels quite hopeful and uplifting. These guys have a sadness to them and a tension as well. Oh, God. And also it's quite a classical one, that one. So let's go into the fourth one here. I'm getting quite excited by all this. So we've got that one, and so, yeah, here we go. There we go. We're going to start with our minor. Oh, wait, I didn't change the name of that. There we go. We go into our minor, and then we go into our fifth major, A minor, E major. This one is really cool for quirky. So if I play a little bit with this one, there we go. So we've got our A minor, and then we've got our E major. It's got a very specific sound to it, this one. It's got a sense of quirkiness to it when you just play it like that. So I've used this a lot on advertising, so TV adverts for products and things. You know, where you've got pizzicato strings playing it, you've got staccato woodwinds playing it, you've got the marimba playing it. Let's just show that because it's really cool. No. Yes. There we go, Spitfire marimba. And you've got, you know, I mean, immediately this is like, you thought banking was easy. And that's the great thing about that chord progression, 1-5-1-5. But then the other great thing, I mean, I didn't really dive into this specifically with the other chord progressions, but this one I would like to show you a little bit more about extensions of chords, just to kind of help you along with these ones a little bit more. So I've given you some wonderful chord progressions here. So let me just, I mean this is like, if you just have 2 or 3 tracks playing this chord progressions, then you've got a whole album here. I've basically given you an album of chord progressions if you want it. So let's take that 1-5, which is A minor, E major, and then we're going to just play around with it a little bit. So it's actually an A minor with a flattened 13, and then we have a dominant 7. But then what happens if we do the same pattern with the E major? Listen to it. "13 chords. You start to hear that they become more rich, more detailed, and it's another world. It's a whole nother world. Initially I went to 6/8 as well, which kind of adds a bit more whimsy. But then that kind of 13th degree added on top of the your major and minor chords really starts to give an element of fantasy. And there you have a fantasy cue all of a sudden from the extension. So let's deal with that in the same way that we've got our first chord progression, which is A minor and F. So let's add in some second or fourth degrees. You start to see and hear. I'm sticking with ninths because they sound quite nice. You can hear the tension and release a lot more clearly because this F add 9 with a major is so bright and hopeful and lovely, and then this A minor add 9 is tense and jazzy and awkward, but then oh yes, and all of a sudden it becomes this lovely jazz tune. Ding, ding. Almost like I'm trying to play Lionel Richie with the wrong chords, it's why I'm easy or tense. So all I'm doing here is I'm taking a chord progression, which is what we all have, and I'm thinking, how can I develop it to become more interesting? Add 11s. This is going to be a tense one. Yeah, the 11s are nice. Or we could just make them into 7th chords, in which case I'll go... The 7ths are just lovely. This one played with a string quartet, where you've got your root, 5th, 3rd, 7, root, 5th, 3rd, root, 5th, 3rds. Sounds fantastic. So thinking about how you can take those basic chords and how can you develop them so that all of a sudden their moods can be changed or shifted or extended, and it's just so lovely playing with chords for that reason. And this is why, as trailer composers, we choose our chord progression and then we'll get the strings doing something. And the strings add those extra, it's not necessarily just strings, but it usually is. Come on, guys, let's admit it. It's spiccato strings going, giving us this sense of movement and also giving us a sense of a development within the chord progression because we're adding in the 9 or the 11 by having a continued ostinato going through the chord progression. And the same thing works with this chord progression too. If we take that chord progression, if we take that ostinato, flattened, major 7. Oh yes, see, it's a G9 11 now. Thank you, Logic. It's not actually an F sharp 11. Well, it is, but... And then tension. And then you start to bring in melodies and all sorts of fun stuff. And and I could carry on doing. I mean, I'm getting excited now. I want to start writing music. So there we have it. We have our 4 chord progressions. We have A minor going to F, or we have A minor, G major, F major, E major, or we have A minor, C major, F major, G major, or we have A minor, E major. 4 very simple progressions, but you should be using them. You should be exploring them. I mean, if we listed all the possible combination of chords, there's only a finite amount that we can use. But these ones are very common and used a lot, which some of you might be saying, well, hold on, I don't want to use common chord progressions, but they're used commonly for a reason, because they have immediate emotional effect. They are emotionally hooking the listener straight away. And that's why you find in big Marvel trailers these chord progressions. You find in small thriller trailers these chord progressions. That's why you find in all the pop songs these chord progressions. Obviously, these are all minor chord progressions because we're rooted in a minor chord. And there are major chord progressions rooted in major chords that have been used similarly. That's another video altogether. Now, for those of you who enjoyed this tutorial, please click like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you want to learn more about trailer music, you head on over to thetrailermusicschool.com, where you can join the community of other trailer composers, where you can buy my courses, you can listen to my podcasts and watch these on the site as well. You can get free contact instruments or pay for contact instruments, whatever. Basically, I've got a site specifically for trailer music composers to learn the tools of the trade, to learn the skills that they need, and then we take them and we make them into paid trailer composers. Well, hopefully paid anyway. At least we teach them how to get there anyway. Thanks so much for taking your time to watch, guys. I hope you have enjoyed it. Right, I hope you enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun for me to do. It was a while back now, but it's still relevant, that stuff I'm covering in there. As ever, if you want to check that out, go to Richard Schreiber on YouTube, or you can head on over to the Trailer Music School, where you'll find my courses in trailer music. Or if you, of course, you want to take your career to the next level, head on over to protege.school, where Vikram Goody and I have created something very, very special. Thanks, chaps. You are absolute legends. See you next week.